Thank you for joining. You have to drink when you can these days. They say it's getting cool tonight.
I know it's supposed to go down tomorrow. So.
Yeah. When we met this morning, it was still
manageable.
It was still somewhat manageable.
Yeah.
A few hours later, it was not the same story.
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. Tonight and tomorrow night. Aleph Tammuz is tomorrow night. It's also the beginning of the summer. Yeshiva Katana just ended. A exodus is going to take place in this community in the next few days. Some of it started already. Any of you leaving?
Yeah, I am.
You going? Where are you going?
I'm working Chaviva.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. The whole summer?
Yeah.
Great. You've been there? Really?
I went to different camp now.
What are you doing there?
Shabbos program and like workshops.
That's a hard work. You're not taking a vacation.
My husband's gonna be here first day.
Oh, yeah? Oh, wow. Wow. So he's going to go up for Shabbazim?
No, Shabbos, yeah.
All right, should go well.
Thank you.
So we have an exodus happening. I kind of like it sometimes in the summer when Waterbury used to be like, it would be like a throwback to when it was a much smaller community. Now it's a throwback to when it was a little bit smaller.
Medium size.
You know, yeah.
Plus we have the Hasidim who come.
Yeah, I think they're coming tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah, that's very nice when we become a little bit of a Satmar town.
Yeah.
I happen to have gotten to know several Satmar mishpachas over the year, just through other work that I do. And I think the Satmar Chassidim are amazing. So what I want to do tonight is I want to say over something very substantial about Tammuz, because Tammuz is the month that we start focusing on the Beis HaMikdash and our need finally for Mashiach to come and take us home. At the same time, to talk about the fact that the summer is starting. And those two things don't seem to be the same conversation. In fact, they almost feel like they're not even apples and oranges. They're like apples and a car. They're like two totally the camp. You're going to be in Chaviva. There's going to be screaming and singing, and I'm sure there'll be a beautiful cantata, and I'm sure you're going to keep it in mind in your programs. But summer is summer, and those of us that are staying here, we're still going to try to be giving our kids a good time, and there's a little bit of a different sense in the summer. Are you working in the summer? What are you doing?
I'm running my ticket.
When is it starting?
Monday.
Wow, so you have a few days now. A few days to prepare. Yeah. Yeah. But it's still not the year. Even the sense that, we're out of hibernation. You know what I mean? These are my neighbors. I forgot over the winter, Leslie and I met this morning while I was walking to yeshiva. Imagine that happening, It didn't happen for 10 months,
Right.
It's
been down for 10 years.
No, but we've met you on Euclid Avenue.
Oh, yes, but never
times.
on
Yeah,
Farmington.
Yeah. So I want to try to speak very seriously about Chodesh Tammuz, but then to try to figure out a way to plug that in to the summer. Wouldn't that be important to have a mahalach in this bright, sunny, geschmack, exciting summer? A mahalach that we feel like we're not neglecting. We're not neglecting Tammuz by embracing the summer, and we're not depriving ourselves of a summer by embracing Tammuz. Now, wouldn't that be a good? Okay. Some of us might help if we go to Eretz Yisrael. That might help a little bit, but even so, even in Eretz Yisrael, you could be a 15-minute walk from the Kaisel and completely forget that we're begging for Mashiach here. This past week you can't. But the Be'ezer Hashem, everything should hold and be peaceful. So let's talk a little bit about Eretz Yisrael, about Tammuz, and then ease our way into the summer and see if we can't have a plan to try to bring these two worlds together. don't think this is moving. Am I wrong? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So, Eretz Yisrael, I want to share with you a few important things, a few important inyanim. The first thing is that the first Rashi in the Torah. The first Rashi in the Torah, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, the elusive Rabbi Yitzchak. Rashi starts quoting Rabbi Yitzchak. By the way, nobody knows who Rabbi Yitzchak is. It's some people even go so far as to say that maybe it was Rashi's father, because Rashi's father's name was Yitzchak. But people don't know who Rabbi Yitzchak was. But anyway, Rashi starts off, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Really, the Torah should have started in Parshas Boy. Okay? That's what the Rashi says. Really, the correct place to start the Torah, Bereishis Nayach Lech Lecha Vayera Chayisar Tolas Vayetzei Vayishlach Vayeshev Miketz Vayigash Vayechish Mois Vayera. Boy. That's where it should have started. Why did it say the 14 or so Parshias before that? For one reason, to make it clear that Eretz Yisrael is ours. Because it starts off with the creation of the world, and the promise of Eretz Yisrael to Avram Avinu, and so on and so forth. Reb Volba, Zechreinu Levracha, when he writes about this Rashi, he says that his great Rebbe, Rabbi Yerucham, the Mashgiach of the Mir in Europe, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, said that you see from here that the sugya of Kol HaTorah Kula is Eretz Yisrael. That is our entire life is Eretz Yisrael, which is a very uncomfortable thing to say in Waterbury, Connecticut. And it demands that we understand what it means and what we're going to do about it. But he says the sugya of the whole Torah, the topic of the whole Torah, is Eretz Yisrael. So we need to understand, in what way is the topic of the whole Torah Eretz Yisrael, and what can we do about it here in Chutz La'aretz. There's a Gemara, that's number one. There's a Gemara, fascinating Gemara, that says that when, at the time that Yidden enter their shuls and beis medrashes, and they say Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach by Kaddish, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says how wonderful it is for a king to be praised in his home like this, how terrible it is that a father sent his children away. In other words, that when Jews walk into shul and they answer Kaddish, and they say, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam Li'olmei Olmaya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts to yearn to bring us home. He says, Oy la'av, woe to a father that has sent his children away from the table. You know, you have that image? Leave the table. That's us. What? So that's, you see it leaves a mark. Yeah. So that's us. That's us. We were sitting by the table when we had a Beis HaMikdash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, leave the table. Go to America. Go to Europe. Go to Syria. Go to Iraq. And when we say Yehei Shmei Rabbah in Kaddish, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Oy, I sent my children away from the table. And what I want to explain, what I think is very important, what I want to explain is why does the Gemara say when Jews go into shul? If I was going to ask you, where do you hear Kaddish? What would you say? In shul. You think the Gemara needs to say, when Jews go into shul and they hear Kaddish? Yeah, thank you for that information. I got that. I knew that you have to go into shul. I think there's something significant, and there's not an extra word in the Gemara. There's something significant that it says when Jews enter shul, like as if the shul is part of the picture here. And what's special about Yehei Shmei Rabbah? There are many beautiful things. What about when they say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? Does that make Hashem want to bring us home?
The only thing you need a minyan for?
Not the only thing, no. No Kedusha you need a minyan for. Even to daven Shemona Esrei, you could daven Shemona Esrei without a minyan, but there's something as Tefillah B'tzibur, laning. There's many things you need a minyan for. You agree with my questions? So I want to share with you. I'm going straight to the meat, okay? I'm going to share with you what I think is going on here, and then we're going to talk about how it's relevant in our lives and how it's relevant to our summer. With Hashem's help, if we have time, I want to get really, really specific so that we really have some ideas of things that we can do over the next few weeks to build ourselves as people, which is always our goal, and always what we want to do in this year is know how we can take a step forward in our own building of ourselves and in our Avodas Hashem. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says it is against your will that you were created. Bal karchach ato noitzer. You ever heard that? Why is it against your will? What's wrong with being created?
Because your neshama has to go through.
Yes, exactly. Reb Chaim Volozhin, the great Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, he has a sefer on Pirkei Avos called Ruach Chaim, and he writes in that sefer that the reason why it's against your will that you were created is because your holy, holy neshama has to come down into what he calls an olam shafal. An olam shafal is a lowly world. Our neshama, the Mesilas Yesharim, compares to a princess that's used to the highest delicacies of spirituality and kavod shamayim. It is not pleasant for our neshama to be here. It's hurtful to our neshama to be here. It doesn't want to be here. And then the Reb Chaim Volozhin says, and that's why what we say in Kaddish. He just puts in that line. That's what we say in Kaddish. You know which line? In Kaddish. We say in Kaddish the following. Kaddish is in Aramaic, so I'm going to translate, even though I know many of you know Hebrew, but I'm going to translate. Yisgadal v'yiskada Shmei Rabbah. The great name of Hashem should become great and sanctified. Be'olma, in the olam, be'olma is be'olam, di bara, that he created, shabara, kir use, in like his will. The world that he created like he wanted. What does that mean? Of course he created the world like he wanted. Did you think Hashem wanted to do one thing and did something else? No, says Reb Chaim Volozhin. We don't know why Hashem created this world. We don't understand. This lowly world, all the strife, all the pain, all the wars, all the kfira in Hashem, why did Hashem think it was an honor to him to create this world? Does that make sense to you? It's a pella. So that's why we say in the world that Hashem created, for whatever ratzon he had, because we can't fathom his ratzon. Ba'omadi barachir usei. Right? And the end of that sentence, we respond, what? Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam Yomeh. The great name of Hashem should be blessed forever. What's this back and forth? You know what it's saying? Hashem has a plan. We don't understand the plan. We don't know why this is the plan, but we know that it's the plan. We know the what, even if we don't know the why. And the what is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the light to emanate from the darkness. Hashem wants the Kedusha to come out of a mundane world. Hashem wants the honor of Hashem to come from a place where there's no honor. That's the what. Why does Hashem want that? That's above my pay grade. But that was the will of Hashem, because we know Hashem created this world for His honor. Right? We say, Baruch Hu Elokeinu shebera'anu lichvoidai. Hashem created this world for His honor. And so that means that this world, for some reason, Kirusei, it's His ratzon. For some reason, Hashem chose that He wants His kavod to come out of this world. He wants there to be greatness in a world that denies Him. He wants me to fall, fail, struggle, and then come through with strength. He wants me to make a mistake, and then make a mistake again, and make a mistake again because I'm really trying to figure this out, and then to fly. And that's the kavod that He wants. And He wants there to be a Waterbury, Connecticut, that there are people that struggle, to even know that there's a Hashem, and there's over 100,000 people in this city, and how many of them even understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists? And of those that understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists, how many have access to the real Dvar Hashem and the Ratzon Hashem? And Hashem wants us to build shuls and yeshivas here that will proclaim the existence and the bitachon in Hashem, like the last two Shabbosim, when every single shul and yeshiva in this city screamed and cried to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, and Baruch Hashem, He listened to our tefillos. Because we are here to announce Hashem's presence and that we trust Him and that we rely on Him because it's blank and empty. And that's why Yiddishkeit has spread across the entire world. And that's why Yidden somehow find themselves in the news all the time. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing all the pieces together to eventually bring us back to Eretz Yisrael, but that we're coming back to Eretz Yisrael after a 2,000-year journey of struggling to bring out the light from the darkness. The kehilos that exist after the Holocaust. Is that not the incredible example of it? Klal Yisrael was decimated. 1 generation later, yeshivas, shuls, chasidus, and it's unbelievable. The light came out of the darkness. How many times do you know in our lives where something difficult or painful happens and we make a Kabbalah, or we decide to do something, or we take on something? That's an example that the light comes from the darkness. That's Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach. We say, Hashem, we don't know why this is the plan. You created it this way for reasons that are beyond our pay grade. We accept that. But we know that you want your greatness to come out in this world that you created with your Ratzai. So I declare, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach. I wish that the name of Hashem should be great. Because that's your plan, HaKadosh Baruch. And that's why it says when Jews come into a Beis HaKnesses. Because outside of Eretz Yisrael, when we're in Gullus, the most incredible transformation that we make is that we take a plot of land in Waterbury, Connecticut, and we give it actual Kedusha. Such profound Kedusha that the Gemara says that the shuls will come with us when Mashiach comes. It's actually permanent Kedusha. I quoted by this year's Malav Malka that the Hafla writes that you will still be davening in your seat in shul after Mashiach comes. In Eretz Yisrael. Okay? You know, you'll come out of shul and you'll see the tall tower of the Beis HaMikdash in the distance. You're like, oh. You know? And you will not hear me say, you know, getting emotional on Yontif, we should be Zaycha to be able to live in the shadow of the Beis HaMikdash, which I say so often. Instead, we'll be saying we're grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, She'echeyanu v'kiyamanu v'yenu lazvan hazeh, that we live in the shadow of the Beis HaMikdash. And I'll bang my hand on this very same bima that I use upstairs with the excellent lighting. That's Tammuz. So when we enter into a time that we're focused on bringing Mashiach, it's not just about the sadness. We'll get to that when we get to the 3 weeks and the 9 days where we'll have to focus on the sadness. But when you go to camp this week? Okay, when you go to camp this week, okay, you're not going there. I can't believe you're here. You're not going there to cry that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. You're going there to bring out the light in the darkness. You're going there because there are going to be a few hundred girls there from the United States of America in 2025 that you're going to have the power to inspire. That's bringing out the light in the darkness. Every one of those girls is the light in the darkness. That's the mission. We're not abandoning Tammuz when we try to bring out the beauty of who we are and what we are. We're living the mission of Tammuz. We're rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. This is the plan. This is why we're in Gullus. We're in Gullus ba'olma divrach Yeruseh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see that we could bring the Hasharas HaShechina to every dark corner of the world. And that's what Rabbi Yerucham meant, possibly, when he said the whole sugya of the whole Torah is Eretz Yisrael. Because what's Eretz Yisrael if not a land that's shining with Kedusha? And our job, no matter where we live, is to live with the mission of Eretz Yisrael. There are similarities between the Kedusha of a shul and the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. Because our job is to fill our space with Kedusha. That's what we're inspired to do. Ba'olma divrach Yeruseh, in this world that Hashem created, I don't know why Hashem thought that we need to have a United Nations that seems to have one uppermost goal, and that is to express as much hate as possible to the Jewish people. I don't know why Hashem thought that was important, but I do know that when we continue with bitachon and with pride to serve Him despite that, then we are bringing light into a dark world. I don't know why a Sayyidina Yisrael won a primary in New York yesterday. I don't know why. It's very frightening. I don't know why. But when Yidden are going to, hopefully he'll still be defeated. But when Yidden that are going to, no matter who's mayor of New York, going to continue to midin kesidron, they're going to continue to go to shul and send their kids to yeshiva and to fight for their right to send their kids to yeshiva and to serve Hashem with pride and to gather together to be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim. Do you have any doubt that they're going to do that no matter what? There's no suffix in the world, because we are here ba'olma divrach Yerusei. We don't understand sometimes why Hashem wants there to be a lack of kavod or a darkness or something painful, or Iran sending missiles on Eretz Yisrael. But we know, my son is learning in Eretz Yisrael now, and he says to us on the phone, that's what he wants. He wants to ruin my first Seder. That's the stubbornness. That's the stubbornness. He got it from my wife, not from me, but that's the stubbornness. You do your job. It could be dark, it could be light. We're here to do our job. So now the summer is coming. Summer is here, I should say. And it seems to feel like this heaviness doesn't really have a place in the summer. As I mentioned earlier, we're like out of hibernation. We're seeing our friends. We're out on Shabbos. Our kids are all over the place. You have this like Shal Shuddis, do you have this with Sarah that like, where is she? Is she home? She's not home. She's Shal Shuddis, not like, we just like hope she's in a safe place. By the time it gets to that time of Shabbos, and we're trying to give them a good time, and maybe we're also trying to take some time for ourselves. And try to as much as possible, refuel and re-energize ourselves. So I want to mention a few things and a few areas where we could bring light in the darkness, where we could focus on ourselves, dafka in the summer, in ways of just reminders. All of you are sophisticated and you don't need me. But I'm just the chazer together with you, some of the things that we need to remember over the summer. Our kids' chinuch goes to a whole new level in the summer, because there's so much more structure during the year, and we rely on the structure to help us a little bit. When that structure is not there, especially this time between yeshiva and camp, it could be challenging. It could be challenging, and it really tries our kaiches to find ways of occupying them, to get along with them, to not be super annoyed at them, to express the things we need to express patiently and cheerfully. It's not an easy thing. There's a balance that we need to strike, which is not always so simple. And that's the balance between, of course, I'm here to help you and to make you happy, but also I'm not your personal assistant and servant. And, you have to learn your own responsibility and take care of things yourself. And it really is a tough battle. And sometimes we get into negative cycles with that. So it's something for us to think about. I don't want to say rules because every home is different, but it's something for us to think about as parents, to think about what are our expectations for our children over vacation. Sometimes there are things that we could implement structurally for them that could be very helpful for them, besides for giving us a little sanity. And sometimes it's just not kedai. But usually going to either extreme fails. Usually it fails. You're going to be up at 7, you're going to be by minyan at 7:15 with your bed made. Good luck. But maybe there's some sense of be home for dinner or something, make sure I know where you are, keep in touch, maybe some achrayas in the house. I'm not talking about even cleaning up other people's things. I'm dreaming for cleaning up their own things. Also a certain sense of achrayas. But it's an opportunity of chinuch to try to see how to take this challenging situation and how to grow from it. And not just to be on the defense. Like sometimes parents this week, I think there's like a certain hunkering down and trying to survive until the structure somewhat comes back of camp, even though it's not the same. There's no homework. There's nothing, they're home at 4:00 and then they're home. Or not home. I don't know which is worse, But it is a tremendous chinuch opportunity for us to try to see and to try to let down our own uptightness a little bit, and to try to be relaxed with them, and to try to take time to laugh with them, and to have fun with them, and if you turn on the sprinkler, it's okay if you also run in the sprinkler. We could be silly and childish also a little bit. It's also okay. Everything with tznius, of course, but that goes without saying. But it's okay for us to allow ourselves to enjoy giving our kids a good time. We could give our kids a good time sometimes, and also join in and have fun by that barbecue, and have the extra dessert. Have the extra dessert and play a game at night. On a summer night with your kids, and play Pictionary and laugh your head off for hours. And those things are very, very, very positive. If you're able to gather the koyach to have that kind of fun with your children, it's such a matana, such a gift to them. And it's such a gift to you. So it's a kedai to try during the summer to do those things. That's in terms of chinuch. In terms of shalom bayis, it's also, the summer is also sometimes difficult, it's sometimes an opportunity. I haven't said this in a long time, but I want to say this because it's come up a lot recently. Couples aren't going away enough. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to arrange. And, I sat with a couple recently and I said, you guys have to go away. You have to go away. You're so worn out. You have to go away. And they couldn't. It was just impossible with the kids. So I told the husband he has to send his wife away. But we have to get back our energy. We have to give ourselves time to breathe. We have to try. Babysitters, sending to parents, sometimes it's not 100% lechatchila, sometimes, but we have to be able to take time to recharge. We can't be at 2% on our battery. That moment where my phone's about to die? That can't be us. It could be my phone, but it can't be me. I can't be on 1% or 2%. Moving into the future, I need to take the time to say, okay, now some me time. If you can't go away on vacation, so then take an hour's vacation. Go away, go to Barnes & Noble, and don't tell anyone where you are. Leave your phone at home, Whatever you need to do, but it's very important. It's the summertime. It's kedai for couples to try to take the time together if they can, and for individuals to try to use the time to recharge. And also talking about couples going away, one of the interesting things, marriage brings out many, many interesting things about what Hashem's plan was. But one of the very interesting things is that some of this is a stereotypical man-woman thing, and some of it is just human beings. But very, very often, the husband's idea of a vacation and the wife's idea of a vacation have no connection to each other whatsoever. And he may have his mishigas that he needs to go do things, and the wife is like, why can't we just stay in one place? Or the opposite. Or he could be like, I just want to be able to lie and drink an iced tea in the sun. I am happy. And she's like, you're wasting, we paid $400 to be here. They have so many activities in this place. Why aren't you using them, And part of going on vacation with families is, and I would add your adult children to that also if you go away with them, is to fargin people's mishigasin of what vacation means to them. Vacation means different things to different people. And over the summer, it's kedai to lean into what the other person's vacation is. And to, of course, everyone deserves their space and their time, but it's worth doing that. And just getting into this type of tug-of-war of vacation, it leaves both of you exhausted. So try to be understanding of your spouse, and try to encourage your spouse to be understanding of you, of what vacation means. What does recharging mean? So that's in terms of Shalom Bayis. And finally, Bein Adam La'atzmai, for ourselves. Because as busy as we're going to be, and as vibrant as the summer is, we need to be focused on the fact that a year is around the corner. It's about 10 weeks away, maybe less, 9 weeks away. We're going to be heading into Elul, Yom Naraim, and, I know that sometimes we have this natural tendency, maybe somewhat trauma-related, that we're like, oh no, Elul, don't say that, you're ruining my summer. But the truth is, at least here in this shul, these are inspiring times for us, and we grow so much during Rosh Hashanah, Shabbos Shuvah, Yom Kippur, and this is part of the cycle of our year. And the summer is a time that I get to focus in on myself a little more. It's not the regular structure. It's not regular life. And I get to focus in. So I would suggest just a few things just to think about. Again, I'm speaking to people that are so sophisticated that I'm just mentioning the ideas. I know each one of you could take them to the direction that's important for you. But first of all, we're outside more. Let's find Hashem in His world. Let's find Him there. You could find, if you look for Hashem, you'll find Him in all the little ways, the little nisim, the beautiful, 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 breathtaking world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. Somebody asked me recently, why would Hashem not make His presence apparent if He wants us to serve Him? So I said, He did make His presence apparent. We just have to know how to see Him. But those that know how to see, and it's not so hard, you can find, it's breathtaking. The world is
Sunset.
It's breathtaking. One of the families in Waterbury travels on vacation. I don't want to say where, but they go away because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. But they go away for a week in the summer, far away. And the husband was describing to me what the sunsets look like at the place. They stay by relatives, but he was describing to me what the sunsets look like. You come back at Yerei Shamayim when you see sunsets like that, animals, mountains. You come back at Yerei Shamayim, So I encourage all of us to find Hashem in His world and to appreciate it and to thank Him for the beauty. I sat on my porch to drink a coffee this morning in Waterbury, Connecticut. Not listed on the list of the most beautiful cities in the United States, even though there's a lot of beautiful parts to it. But I was just surrounded by trees, and the trees are just covering it. By where I am, there's just vines and everything everywhere. And you could be annoyed from the lack of seder of it. But at the moment, I was just smiling. It was outside, it was a little hot, but outside, green, blue, just the gorgeous world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made. So let's find Hashem in His world. And let's try to look inward. Think in 3 terms. Very important. Ruchnius terms. What do I need? Where can I move myself in a positive direction spiritually? That's 1. Very important. 2, how can I move myself in a positive direction emotionally? Because so much of what blocks us sometimes is the way we criticize ourselves, the way we talk down to ourselves, the way we question ourselves. And the more that we can move towards being more emotionally healthy, the better servants of Hashem will be. And yes, also super important, how can I move myself into a positive direction physically? We neglect taking care of ourselves in the bahala of life. And the summer could be, the hischadshus of the summer, the new schedule, can be an opportunity to take upon ourselves. Drinking, very important this summer. Eating as healthy as we can. Exercising, sleeping enough, taking care of ourselves. We sometimes get so busy and we're so tarot and we're so much on our minds that we forget that Ushmarta Ma'od L'Nafshei Seichem is also one of the very important instructions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. I'll remind you, I've told you this before, but I'll remind you that Dovi Merenstein once told me that he was talking to Rav Kellerman. Rav Kellerman used, I don't know if he still does, but he used to have these chaburas, I think all over the world, but he had this chabura where he used to go on runs or hikes with people. And he used to run like 20 miles at a time, incredible distances, and his stamina and his strength was just incredible. He took excellent care of himself. So Duvi asked him, like, he's a Baal Musar, he gives a Vadim, he's a Talmud of Reb Volba. Like, what is this, like, focusing so much on taking care of yourself physically? And he said to Duvi something that I never forgot. He said, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me a vessel to serve him with. It's called my body. I don't know when Hashem is going to take my neshama out of it. It could be at any time. But as long as I'm alive, it's my job to take care of the keli Hashem gave me so that it could last 100 years. And that's my job. What Hashem does, that's Hashem's job. But my job is Hashem gave me a vessel, it's my job to take care of it. I was very inspired by that. When we take care of ourselves physically, we're also adding to our avodas Hashem. We're more emotionally healthy, we're more spiritually healthy, so let's try to bring all this together. Yes, in a few weeks we'll talking about the Avelos of Yerushalayim, but now with Tammuz starting, it's time for us just to think a little bit about why we're in Gullus and what we need to do to get out of here. And that is that we need to bring Kedusha into the world. And we need to bring the light out from the darkness. That's what we need to do. And with the summer coming, we're going to embrace the summer as an opportunity to do that. We're going to try to find it in our children and in the way we interact with our children. We're going to try to find it in our shalom bayis, vacations, taking care of ourselves and our families. And we're going to try to find it in ourselves to try to grow. And I know it's hard when you're focusing on 1,000 other people, but it's kedai to try to take a few moments and focus inward and take care of yourself, and you'll be so much more effective taking care of other people if there's a little bit of a focus on yourself. Some people, they have a chisaron that they're always focused on themselves. But when I give this share, I know I'm speaking to people that I have to criticize them that they should focus a little on themselves. Baruch Hashem, because you're all such giving people. But that's important. The summer is here. Let's use the summer for the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us. And it should be a healthy summer. And we should hear only good news, B'suras Tovos. And maybe we'll be Zeicha this year that this Tisha B'Av we shouldn't have to fast. I know my kids are dreading the fast. I told them we still got what to daven, that we won't have to fast this year. Be'ezer Hashem, we should be Zeicha to be able to taka all of us. You could all have your seats in the Ezras Nashim, in the shul, in Yerushalayim, Be'ezer Hashem, Yashikayach. Thank you.
Thank you.